Good morning. Hi, this is David Theus, and I am joined today again by what are we going to call you? A sidekick and co-host, Peggy Lynch. We'll start with that first. Peggy Lynch with 21K Promotions. And let's use our names. Why not? Coming to you via the Small Business Patriot. If you're watching us here on the YouTube channel, the Small Business Patriot, or listening to us via Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts, thank you, first of all. Welcome. And please like and share if you find this information beneficial to yourself and or maybe a fellow business owner, small business owner, or just a friend. But please like and share and subscribe, if you will, to both channels, the Spotify or wherever you listen to your podcasts and or the YouTube. Excuse me. We're going to get into the program. The format, pretty simple, is sometimes we have more than just the two of us, but this is an opportunity for Peggy to bring some questions and some point of discussion to the table where we kind of hash it out. Peggy puts in her expertise from her longstanding small business experience, and I get to, as a business coach or consultant, weigh in with my thoughts and hopefully put a bow on it and wrap it up for the episode. We've been running about 30 minutes. We haven't really planned it. It just seems like we run out of gas and solve the problems in 30 minutes. So we've gotten our legs underneath us. I think I was telling Peggy before the show that we're going to do a little housekeeping today and share with you some vision. I think good leaders should be able to share vision, where we're going. And then the next step after that is to follow up and with each person and hold each other accountable, including myself, to help us get down the road to where our target is. So towards the end of the show, we'll talk about where we're going, and we'll bring up again Northeast Florida Business Alliance. And for those of you that are in Clay, St. Johns, or Duval County, you'll know about that and give you some insight where we're headed with that. So without further ado, Peggy has always done her homework, and I bet she's got something to talk about today. So if you'll take a moment, Peggy, and introduce yourself, your company, and give us a little bit about what you do so that folks can understand that. And maybe what's the best way to get in touch with you? I always put Peggy's link to her website in the show notes, as well as some other information you may want to scan down into the show notes for the YouTube as well as the Spotify. But Peggy, go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell us about your company and maybe what's the best way to get in touch with you.
All righty. Good morning, David and everyone. Peggy Lynch, 21K Promotions. And what we do is provide branded merchandise to any size business, organization, churches, individuals, etc., in order to get your name out in front of potential clients or bank employees, or just exhibit at a trade show and have some handouts. So there's thousands of purposes for promotional products, but that's what we do. And my email address is Peggy211K@outlook.com. Even though I'm 21K Promotions, and that confuses people, it's Peggy211K@outlook.com.
Okay, so what we'll do, in case that blurped out on the audio, sometimes it does that. I will make sure that in the show notes, you'll have Peggy's email as well as her website. And so if someone would like to follow up with her post watching this program, then you can email her directly and or check out our website. Okay. All right. Well, what's going on? What you got up your sleeve? Well, you're sleeveless today. So what's going on?
Okay. So I believe this is a pretty hot topic that almost every small business owner has thought about over the years. And it's to buy or not to buy a business list. And underneath that, there are a couple of things. If you do choose to buy a business list, what are you going to do with it? I mean, well, first of all, what type of a list are you going to request? Is it by zip code, by industry, age, or gender, that type of a thing? And once you purchase that list, how do you reach out to these contacts? Do you call? Do you email? Do you stop in? And then last but not least is, when and how do you follow up on these leads you've gotten?
Okay. Simple.
Well,
Okay.
I did finally decide to try that. I purchased a couple of lists. So when you're ready,
Well, let's start off. Do you want to share maybe a particular nuance or a particular genre that you participated in recently? What have you done?
well, initially, because I'm in St. Augustine, Florida, I started targeting marinas and boat companies and that type of a thing. And that that didn't work as well as I had expected. So the next time I paid for a client list, I had them just do all the businesses in my zip code. And that made a little more sense because I prefer to go in person anyway, initially. So that way I was able to meet up with clients in person or potential clients. And it did result, I think we talked about it briefly in a previous episode, but it resulted in a wonderful meeting with a new client. So that worked. Although, again, there's a lot to it. You got to think about the cost and you can't let go of it. Once you start making contacts from that list, you have to just stay in front of them. You got to keep going and keep going and keep going.
What was your I'm familiar with your concept about the marinas, and clearly, if you're not familiar with St. Augustine, Florida, where Peggy resides, um, we're up against water, right? There's Matanza Bay and the Intercoastal Waterway, and just across the way is the ocean. And so marine life is significant in that. What's the old joke? We're a small drinking community with a fishing problem, I think is the tagline for
Yeah.
St. Augustine. I guess that's a bumper sticker anywhere that's close to water. But what was your thought process? Marinas. What was was it just kind of a throwing a dart at the dartboard? It seems like there's a lot of them. Maybe I should get a list of all of them and make it simpler to get them all together, or what was your motivation for that first selection?
Well, for the most part, it was going to be something that I thought I would enjoy, just because when people think about marinas and boating companies, they're thinking about happy times and vacations and sun and fun. And so it's a happy thing. So that I thought I would enjoy. And I've since learned, well, there are many marinas and boat companies out there, and a lot of them have gift shops. So I thought, well, this is the way to go. And I did make a little bit of traction, with a few of the boating companies, but that again is something that, they're all ready to work with you initially. And they sound excited about it. And then pretty soon they've pivoted and gone another direction. And so it just didn't seem like the smartest way to go for me.
Okay, so let me ask you a pain question first of all, and not to dwell on the wound, if you will, but give me a ballpark idea. What might I've been in the list business before, and we'll talk about it. I've got a couple cool stories, of course, because I'm full of stories. But give me an idea what something might cost in today's world, as far as the cost of the list, how many names or contacts might be on it, and so forth.
Okay, so I've used two different companies to purchase these lists from, and the first company was $2 per call, and they wanted $200 a month. Okay, so it was per call, and then
So per call, you were going to call the contact, or they were going to call the contact?
no, they have it set up where, and they're in my industry, so the people that
Mhm.
they hire to make phone calls are very familiar with my
Okay.
industry, so they know the questions to ask and who to reach out to and so forth. So that seemed to make sense, but again,
So,
that was for the marinas.
hold on, let me just clarify. So you're not going to own the list at that point. You're just buying the access, and their people are going to phone these individuals, and it's $2 per call, and whatever the closing rate is, when you land one that's interested, you get that name afterwards.
Yeah, well, yes, I do technically own the list. Okay, I
Okay.
purchased the list, and they're making the calls at $2 a pop, and
Okay.
yeah, yeah. So and then with that, what they're trying to do is set up an appointment for
Mhm.
me. And since some of these marinas were South Florida. I'm not going to drive there to visit, this potential client. So
Right.
my follow-up would need to be a phone meeting or a Zoom meeting or something in that order. And so they would do kind of an introduction. They would make themselves appear to be my assistant, making the phone call
I understand.
and trying to set this up with me. And so then I would get the email introduction, to John Smith at whatever marina. And they would tell John Smith that I'm calling him. What would be a good time to call you? And Monday at 10 o'clock in the morning, Peggy will call you. So that's how it worked.
All right. So the list business is, for those of you that don't understand it in the rooms, I would think if you're close in age to Peggy and I, then you have a firm understanding about the list business, because it's a little older than not. But these marketing tactics tend to follow technology. What happens is, and I have a conversation about this once a month, it seems like, with some of my email friends and some of my texting friends and so forth, and those people that are marketing newfangled ways to market. And the old days, let's go back a little bit to the 80s. I worked for a small financial publishing company called the Sound Money Investor. I think one of the guys went to jail out of that group. Thankfully, I got out of there before all that happened. But basically, we were a publisher of magazines. The Personal Investor, I think, was one of them, and that was kind of a mainstream individual investor magazine. It came out every month. And there was one called the Sound Money Investor, and we called that the kooks. Those are the people that buried gold in the backyard and bought ostrich eggs. And they were on the cutting edge of envirotourism in Costa Rica. In fact, we did a show down in San Jose, Costa Rica, before anything was going on down there. I mean, before all the zip line and resorts, it was all the very cutting edge of envirotourism. Anyway, so the point is, we had a subscriber base of investors, and they were two succinct different people. I mean, the one was a kind of a mainstream personal investing person that was kind of like you and I, maybe had some normal thoughts about investing. And then the other one was the kooky people on Sound Money Investor. And so depending on, just like you said, marinas, hey, I'm surrounded by marinas, it would be kind of fun and to talk to. But other than on the surface, you may have not scratched enough to see what marinas, and you did find out later on. But on the surface, it seemed to make sense. And so on the surface, if you had a financial vehicle that you wanted to put in front of our subscribers, Personal Investor was more mainstream, normal, and the Sound Money Investor was the kind of kooky people. And so if you had a kooky product, like, selling ostrich embryos, you would advertise it to those people. And if you wanted to sell a mutual fund, you would sell it to the other group. So on the surface, you can make some assumptions about these marketing lists, if you will, that may or may not be right. And so what happens is, with technology, the list technology, the ability to formulate a database, the ability to capture that information in the very beginnings of CRMs, resource management. I can never remember that acronym, but basically a database. And so technology was formulating around putting databases together and collecting information and realizing the value of it. And so it was very infant in its stages. And so we sold our subscriber list to people. Oftentimes people would either run an ad in our magazines, a visual ad, or they would say, can we buy your subscriber list, and send them something either in the mail or make phone calls to them, those who had phone numbers or emails. The problem is, each one of those technologies, as things go along, people abuse them. And so it became, there were list whores in the industry, where they would, I got a list of 10,000 people. Mind you, it's been called 750,000 times, And people, as soon as you pick up the phone, they're like, oh, hell no. And they just, slam the phone down on you. Or you would see list advertisements that never been called. We really groom our list, and it's a bad word these days. We really cherish our list and try to keep it sacred, and we don't sell it to everybody. Well, that's probably a lie, but so that was going on. And so in the early days of list marketing, it was genius. I mean, you had people that seemingly were interested in what you had to sell, and you had a new way to get to them, either by a mail campaign. You could drop them a mail piece and with a response rate in it, or you could, if they had emails, you could shoot them an email and hit a response, or you could have a phone bank call either yourself or hire someone to call these people, and then go from there. And so the rules for lists back then, say you would buy 10,000 subscribers, and I don't know what we charged. You always priced it like advertising. If advertising was $100 per thousand, the list usually came in a little bit less, so maybe $75 per thousand, whatever it was. It could have been upwards of 500 per thousand. But you always sold it in a competitive mindset to a print ad. I think one of our lists we sold for about $8 a thousand, which was pennies, but it had been abused. Okay, so the point is this: list marketing. I've always stayed away from it because I've seen behind the curtain. I've worked behind the scenes and saw how many people were abused and used on them. The rule is, if you buy 10,000 people and you send out a mailer, for every mail piece you get back, that becomes your contact. You have now purchased and paid for the right to use the list. And sometimes they'll put stipulations in the contract that says, for every person that responds either by telephone, that answers your call and decides they want to talk to you, you own that person. You own Jane Doe now. You can add them to your list. But for every person that doesn't respond, either by phone or return mail or email, you don't own that person anymore. You get one shot at them or two shots at them. That person, you have to forego that portion of the list. Now, it's kind of hard to enforce that rule because you have visual contact. Maybe they send you the list with labels. That was one way we would do it. We would print mailing labels, and you got all those labels, and you stuck them on your mail piece. And once the label was gone, if you weren't smart enough to put the labels on the copy machine and make copies of it, and then have someone with your people put those names into a database, that would be stealing, but it happened all the time. But once the label was used, if you didn't get a response, you used it up. But the ones that came back, they became yours, and you got to add that person to your marketing efforts. I guess the point I'm trying to make is it can be somewhat antiquated compared to today's marketing efforts. And here's why. Technology, and I'm not going to get into algorithms and the things that are going on with Facebook and online. I mean, I think online now, if I have a subconscious thought about something, as soon as I turn on my Facebook feed or my LinkedIn feed or my internet feed, suddenly these ads pop up, and that's a little bit of a joke. I'm looking for a pen. I want to buy a fancy writing instrument. And so I did a Google search about this one particular writing instrument recently. And now every page I open up has pictures of this writing instrument on it, that, this very one I want, with deals. And so there's technology that has superseded the list marketing right there. I mean, you and I can't figure that out in our simplistic heads, how the algorithms work, but it works. All right, let's see if I can get to your answer. The thing about the list that I would be guarded is we got to go back to the basics. We've really got to understand who our customer is. And we've got to dig into the front end of the equation first and really start tracking the people that you and I are talking to right now and conducting business with. We've got to ascertain and ask questions of them that help us, create an avatar. That's a word that everyone's using today. We have to actually create a person. Who is this person that deals with me? Male or female. The simple demographics are easy to capture. Male or female. How old are they? What income strata are they in? What business are they in? all those demographic pieces that now we can collect by either simply asking a question, sending out a survey to our customers. A lot of times a quarterly survey goes back out to your customers asking unique questions to try to identify what they're doing. I did a crazy test one time, and this comes out of a marketing research class I did. I put together about 50 questions, okay, and they had nothing to do with my industry. They were just, one of them was, do you like lobster versus, steak, or chicken versus whatever. I mean, they were just kind of random. I'll have to find that, random questions. And I knew that out of 50 questions, 40 of them at least would be 50-50. Someone would answer this or that. And what I was looking for was 3 questions at the very end that would show up as outliers, meaning that there would be suddenly within the database, within the selection or the sample, I would find 3 questions that would stand out as outliers. And I did. And so I found those 3 questions that were radically not 50-50. They were like 70, 30 or 80-20. And those 3 outlying questions was the identifier that told me who my customer was. And what I was trying to do was come up with a formulaic approach that I could ask a complete stranger these 3 questions, and how they answered it would give me some insight as to whether I needed to continue the conversation with this guy or not. Does that make sense? You following that?
Yes. Yeah. Clever.
So every other question was a 50-50 shot, but these 3 outliers, I'll have to get that test and get it out. Those 3 outliers, I don't know how it happened, but those were the elements that set my people apart. They were the mindset that I had already been working with from an investment and protection standpoint. And so I went around asking people, so do you prefer lobster or steak or whatever it was? I'll have to get them out. And as soon as they said the one I was looking for, oh, do you have a few moments? Can we speak some more, or can we set up a time to talk? And they'd be like, well, that's a weird question. I know, but it worked. So we've really got to spend more time getting to know who our customers are. And then we can match up some tools. Now, if you can get a list, the problem is you just don't have control of the validity. You don't have control of how many times they've been hammered. You don't have control of they're still in business. Is it update and current? A lot of those things would be, especially in today's arena, people are closing and changing ownership. People are selling businesses and getting out, and then suddenly you get new owners. Maybe they've closed their shop and moved to a new location. So there's that battle too.
Right.
If you haven't figured it out, I'm probably not pro list per se. I'm pro list of gathering your own list and formulating as you gain new customers. And we've talked about that, right? As far as my little CRM that I came up with and how to do that. But that's, that takes long. That's not expeditious, like you're trying to jump forward by buying a list with. But I guess my answer to this is I'm not a big fan of it because I know the background story, and maybe it's improved along the way, and someone else may weigh in if we have some comments or something about this. But I just think it's so important. There's a natural tendency to try to make shortcuts because you need business and you want to grow your business. And so if I can get these people, this group of people via a list, then I can probably get a jump start on things. Maybe not. And let me make one more point. I'm getting kind of long here, but let me make one more point to the technology piece of it. Every time we come up with some new technology, people burn these things up. It just drives me crazy. There's a couple folks out there that are still in the email marketing, and I know email marketing, if you send out 10 million emails, there's a certain metrics that says, we can get 1%, 2% or 3% return. We do a newsletter, the Small Business Patriot, and the national average of my email newsletter that opens up is like 24%. That's it. Amongst all the constant contact newsletters, they're telling me, that's what Constant Contact's telling me. Of course, they could be selling that concept. It's 24%. Now mine opens 50%. 50%. They call me every other week, like, Mr. Theus, what are you doing? You're getting 50% open rate. People are clicking through your newsletter. I'm like, well, I know them personally. You know, I don't have 10,000 subscribers, and I don't make everything just blanket to everybody. It's a personal relationship. But email marketing started out, let me go back one more step. Fax marketing. Back in the publishing days, we had a thermal fax in our office. You know, remember that paper, the thermal fax paper?
Yes.
If you didn't read it today, it was gone tomorrow. Remember that? Almost that bad. I can remember having, oh gosh, those are horrible stories, but I would sit on the day or two before deadline, and I would make a flyer, and I sat with my list of fax numbers over that machine. And it was a one feed. And this guy was like, what are you doing, Theus? And I would fax 250 to 500 faxes all day long. That was my marketing plan. And I got sales because I got their attention. It would come across their fax machine and they would say, hey, there's an offer. There's a deadline. We got to get in now. I was creating urgency, so to speak. Well, guess what? People they don't get faxes like we used to anymore. Do people have fax machines anymore in their office? I guess it goes into an email. The fax does now. And so that technology got burned up. So many people were doing the same thing. And even on my own fax machine, I would get these gold exploration people that are digging up gold or diamonds up in northern Canada, and it was all junk. It was just you didn't even want to look at the fax machine anymore. And so the next thing came along was email.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's a fella here in town that still works for an email company, and I had a great conversation with him, and just a super nice guy, but he wants to sell you a package where they're going to send, I don't know, a couple 100,000 people emails. Yeah. I mean, if you throw enough pebbles in the pond, you're going to get some splash, you know, but I don't want to waste my money to get 0.5% return, you know. It just doesn't seem like it makes sense. So we've burned up emails. The next thing is texting. Oh, texting it's the best. Well, guess what's going to happen to you and I? Have you gotten text emails before? Or text messages?
Yes.
Are you genuinely excited about getting up in the morning and checking your text messages for ads?
No, I wouldn't say excited.
So they've burned that up. You know, I get it. I'm a capitalist. We got to use the tools that are afforded to us, but it just seems the technology is great. It's here today, gone tomorrow, though, because there's enough people that just chew that stuff up, and they're looking for the next thing. So, I'm just old school, I guess. I think that the personal relationship part of it is the long-standing, sustainable piece. And I hope that's probably not a great answer for you, but
No, actually, it was an excellent answer, because I'm not necessarily pro-list, especially having tried this a couple of times now. But I think the subject matter was good to get out to everybody that watches this, listens, and then it might save them a little bit of time and hopefully some money in making that decision.
You know, it's funny. I was talking to a fellow, I think maybe yesterday, and he was asking about, what do you do, Theus? I don't fully understand what you do. And I'm like, well, that makes two of us. But I said, I'm probably looking more like an incubator. I don't like working with startups, first of all. He goes, what do you mean? I said, well, if you came to me with a business idea and said, I want to do this, can you help me get off the ground? And I would say, I can tell you some things to do and not to do, but the problem with a startup is they know everything. The guy that wants to start his own business, he or she knows everything, and they won't listen to someone else that maybe has some insight. So go out there and stub your toe a couple times. Unfortunately, go blow some money and not have it work out for you. And then when you're in trouble, or you're finally, ready to pony up and say, Theus may have some insight that I don't have, come back and see me. And it's usually anywhere between 18 months and 3 years. And so I would rather work with someone who's got a business model up and running. They've made plenty of mistakes along the way. They're still not perfect, but they need me to come in and help them tweak what they're doing and really start to wring as much out of the sponge, as I like to say, to take that sponge of growth and capital and business, and just wring out every expense, get as down and lean as possible, and wring out as much profit. And that's really where I do well. And so a lot of times, I guess it's because I'm old. I'm 58, and I've I've seen a few things along the way, and I've made my own mistakes. I'm not by any means perfect. I've gone out and spent a lot of money on trying to get shortcuts, and only to find out someone else made a lot of money off of me, and I didn't make good choices.
Yeah.
So I don't know who said it. Was it Einstein? You keep doing the same thing over and over again and failing. That might be the crazy thing to keep doing. Anyway, so that's my point. I think the problem with list is in the quote unquote list business as you and I know it. I'm sure there's some advances that have been made, and someone will tell me, oh no, they're creating new ways of doing things. It's antiquated. The algorithm technology is so much more effective. It's still new. That'll get burned up too. I mean, I can already tell. If I see one more ad for this pen, now I don't even want the pen. I'm like, just quit showing up in my feed. I'm tired of it, and it's that same group of marketers like, here, get mine. It's like that. It's like that. What was that show? Finding Nemo. And remember the seagull scene down in Australia where the fish showed up and they were like, mine. That's mine. It's painful to watch. And so I would rather spend the time and build those relationships and put some people to work for me, find out who my customers are, understand exactly who they are, and build that avatar so I can start looking for those people when I walk about the streets. And I'll get that survey I did. I need to find that again. And maybe we can put one together and try it. We can put one together for you, and then actually survey your clients, the ones that you're actually working with, and we'll come up with 3 questions that they'll be bizarre. I promise you, 3 questions. And you start asking strangers, hey, listen, steak or chicken. I can't remember what they were, but because they were geared to my clientele too. So that it wouldn't necessarily work. Well, I guess you could lay over that series of questions on your people too. But once the result came back, then it would be effective to your people. I just believe that we're all as unique as God created us. Fingerprints, none of us have the same fingerprints. None of us have the same DNA. God created us individuals and his image and his amazing creativity. But there's certain things about us that are like, we have like-minded thoughts. We have like-minded habits. We have like-minded things that we enjoy doing. There's other people that I like smoking cigars. There's other people that like smoking cigars. But if you put 10 of us who like smoking cigars together, we're all 10 different people. So somewhere along the way, there's things that line up. And that's the challenge for me, to find those things. And then once I know that that's my customer, let's go build a relationship with them, because they typically hang out with other people like themselves. And that's my answer toward that.
Okay. All right.
All right. Well, how about that? 9:40, real time. Wow. Okay. Well, is this a good time for us to stop doing this? Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Think we covered it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, we did.
Well, I hope that's been helpful. I hope people can follow that thread. I don't know. I mean, and we're in the same boat. This podcasting thing. This content marketing. I mean, there's like 20 billion podcasts out there. You know what I mean? I mean, really, we're in the same boat. We're doing this to try to help one another to be more successful and help those who are listening to us. But if you get on Spotify or YouTube and try to sift through, I don't know how many, there's millions of people doing just what we're doing. And so, we're kind of in the same argument. This is yet another piece of technology that people are burning up and using up. I just happen to like it. And it gives us a chance to stay connected, even though we're 45 minutes apart. So anyway, all right, let me get on to some housekeeping real quick. For those of you that might be live, reside, work, or have a small business that is based in Clay County, Florida, Duval County, Florida, or St. Johns County. So if you look at a map, it's basically all of Northeast Florida except for Nassau County. We have, years ago, almost 4 years ago, I started a group called Promote Clay. and all one word. You can find us on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. Promote Clay. And I just do stuff. I throw stuff against the wall, and if it sticks, we just keep doing that over and over again. And what we've learned, a lot of stuff from it, but we need to expand, and we want to expand, and we want to build these relationships in 2 other counties. And so what we've started is Northeast Florida Business Alliance. And I believe with all my heart in this environment, this anti-small business, anti-middle class environment that we're in. Our regime, our government is overreaching, and we are the last of the pioneers. If we were in the days of the Old West, you and I, Peggy, would be on a cart, horse-drawn cart, heading to St. Louis or heading out west to claim our stake in the land. And we are. The small business owner is the last of the pioneers. We're rugged individuals. And that's what this country was founded on, rugged individualism. I think Rush Limbaugh used to say that quite a bit. And the ability to be free and to pursue our form of happiness within the law. We can't go out and break the law, but it's our ability to pursue our form of happiness in owning a business and not have to rely on government and not have to rely sometimes on family. We're pig-headed individuals is what we are. And God bless us, because that's what freedom's about. And so we're under attack. If you don't know that, I'm sorry. If you don't want to admit to it, come walk a day in our shoes. We are under attack from this government to put us out of business. And so I believe the only way that we as individuals can survive this and navigate better is we've got to join forces. And we've got to align ourselves in a sense of community. We've got to have strong family, our loved ones, whether you have husband and wife or your children or your grandchildren. We've got to reinitiate relationships with our families, and we've got to start building and strengthening our communities. And your community could be your church or synagogue. It could be a local civic organization that you're part of. God forbid the Chamber of Commerce. That's another podcast. But if that's the only organization that's available to you, go join and get involved. But we are starting an organization called Northeast Florida Business Alliance. And if you're on LinkedIn, come over to David Theus, Theus. There's a link in the show notes for my LinkedIn profile, and drop me a message that you want to join force or you want to be in my network. And then I'll connect with you in our network. And then we'll talk about how you can be a member of the Northeast Florida Business Alliance. And we do some pretty cool stuff. It's not a quote unquote networking group. It's really about us investing in one another, getting to know each other, building personal, intentional relationships. And I have this strong belief that when that happens, you and I share some empathy between each other. We get to meet each other. I get to learn about you. You get to learn about me. I can see your pain, your success. I can feel it. I can identify with it. And this emotional transfer called empathy happens. I don't really understand how it happens, but it does. And there's that kind of light bulb moment where you say, hey, Dave gets it. He's listening to me, and he understands my needs and my concerns. And when that happens, the next emotional transfer is trust. And so it doesn't happen overnight. You can't buy a list and develop this kind of empathy and trust with the purchase of a list. It takes time. And the problem for us small business owners, we are so focused and geared into running our businesses. And so what I do is I take the legwork out of carving out those opportunities. And so we schedule after hours events at kind of cool places where we can sit down and maybe have a beverage and have some dinner and break bread. We do a afternoon Zoom call where we can join together via this technology and not touch each other, but still have face-to-face conversations and enjoy each other's company. We do this Saturday morning coaching call where anyone else in our organization is welcome to be a part of it. And, it's Saturday morning, so people got their lives. I have a famous saying I say all the time: life happens. So there's no obligatory commitment that you have to be on Saturday morning coaching call. It's just Peggy and I enjoy each other's company. And so far we're having a consistent, deal here, and it's working out really great. Yeah. So that's kind of in a nutshell, 10,000 foot level, what Northeast Florida Business Alliance is going to look like. And I encourage wherever you are listening to this to join forces with other like-minded small business owners and professionals in your community and get to know each other and start leaning on each other, hold each other up, have each other's back, and start formulating relationships that are going to help you grow your business. And with that was kind of my housekeeping stuff for the day. Any thoughts from you, Peggy, you'd like to share?
Well, simply that, again, I'm glad that we did this episode because I'm hoping it helps anybody that views this episode, helps them make a good decision as to whether or not to buy a list. Who's going to make the money on that list? The seller of the list or you?
Well, and the final note to that, if you choose to do that, and I'm not going to judge you if you choose to do that, then purchasing the list or hiring the list is just one small piece of it. You've got to work the list after that. And otherwise you're doing yourself no favor. There's no free lunch, there's no shortcut. You've actually got to take those names and go right through every one of them and exhaust them. And you'll find out maybe it's a very successful venture. It could be what is your return on your investment? You spend $1,000 and you make $25,000. Maybe not be a bad thing to do, but work it and exhaust it, and then measure your results. All right, good stuff, Peggy. If I had if I knew someone that could get me a trophy to say, wait a minute, hold on, hang on.
What are you up to, Theus?
I gotta dust him off. What does that say? It says, "You deserve an award." I keep this, since we're all self-employed, independent business owners. We don't have sales meetings where we get these awards. So anytime I feel like I'm doing a great job, I'll pull this off the shelf and see if I can get him over here. And I go, Dave, you deserve an award. Give yourself an award. So that's my.
I love it. Thanks, Dave.
It's a little nutty. So you got the award today. We'll pass that on. It says, congratulations. You deserve an award, Peggy. There it is.
All right. Every day.
That's a nice way to silly close the episode. All right. God bless you, Peggy. Have a great weekend with your family and friends, and have a great week and be productive, be prosperous. And like I always like to say, folks, stay vigilant. Stay vigilant. We're in this. This is a long game, not a short game. This is a long game, and we look forward to seeing you again soon on this YouTube channel, the Small Business Patriot, and check out our newsletter and all kinds of good things in the show notes. We'll see you next time. Thanks, Peggy.
Bye, David.
Bye-bye.